talking to somebody, trying to explain this aspect of selfing, how we see ourselves separate from everybody else. So the analogy just kind of came up where the therapist is dealing with people and they're taking on all these problems of their own, and how long would they last? They wouldn't last long at all. Why? Because they're taking on other people's, all these problems from out there, they're bringing them in and they're identifying with it. No different than what we do when we say that we have these problems out there. We're taking on these problems and we're seeing them, we're identifying them as our own. So the question comes up, well, problems exist. We have good, we have pleasant things, and we have unpleasant things. We have these situations that happen, they arise. So we look at these in Buddhist terminology, these are just feelings that arise, pleasant or unpleasant. Very simple, very clean cut. So we have these things that come up, and these feelings arise. We can't stop them. Things happen, things occur. These are experiences that come up. But the difference is that if somebody awakens and understands this to a certain extent, all these experiences they're coming up, but there's no experiencer that experiences them. So it's like the therapist that is listening to all these problems, but they're not taking on that problem because they're not identifying with them. They're not their problems. So we can have all these experiences in life, and we actually experience these things. Pleasant things come up, unpleasant things come up, and many of our experiences are neutral. They just don't have any significant meaning for us. So these things happen, but if we see them just simply as experiences and no experiencer that can take these in and identify them as being my experiences. Because if we say these are mine, where do they go? I mean, what happens there? It was Bhante Rahula used to say, he was here in November, he said, untangle the tangle. Is that how anybody, I was at the retreat, I don't know if anybody else was at the retreat. The tangle of the tanglement, or untangle the tangle. So in other words, we have all these difficulties, and we figure out how to, untangle the tangle, he said. But so we take in these things. Like I said, feelings arise, experiences come up, but actually what is happening is these experiences are going right through us. If we try to identify with them and say that these are ours, they get sticky, and we want them to get sticky. We try to hang on to them. A lot of people identify with their suffering. They say, this is my suffering. And you can, when you carry on a conversation with people, you can get that, you can tell. Every other word is I. I did this, and I feel bad about this, and I wish I would have done that, and I hope I can do this, and I. So they're hanging on to these things. Another analogy is, I might have shared this with somebody the other day here, but imagine a world. First, I got to tell a joke. There was a teacher. As soon as I said imagine, this came to mind. There was a teacher, and she's talking to the little boy, and she said, "Johnny, imagine if you're going through the jungle and there's 6 man-eating tigers around you. Just imagine, what would you do?" And Johnny said, "Stop imagining." So imagine, and we'll go back to the imagine. I don't want you to stop imagining here, but imagine our world. This is our world, without any humans or without any human intervention in the world. So there's no man-made buildings, there's no man-made materials, just what we would call nature itself, animals, plants, nature. Now, would there be any problems on this earth?
Not like the ones we created.
Not the ones we created.
We'd probably be a lot more mindful too. There weren't any other humans.
Yeah, who would be mindful?
Yeah.
The animals could be mindful, I suppose. The animal, then the question comes up, somebody said, well, there would be suffering because the animals would be suffering. We have to look at that aspect of prey and feeding one animal feeding on another. I mean, animals they hunt another animal for a reason. That's what we call nature. So we have to refer to nature. And nature is, by the way, is what the Dharma is. Buddhist teachings were nature. He was talking about nature in all his teachings. The natural unfolding of things. So in this world, there's no man. Are there any problems? Are there any worries? So we remove ourselves from the world. Why aren't there any worries? Why aren't there any problems?
We are the makers of our own suffering.
Say it again.
We are the makers of our own suffering, for the most part.
Yeah.
Every, I don't know, like all the animals live in the moment. They don't really, they're present to experience what they need to experience.
Right. That's both of you are right. Yeah. Instinct. They're living on instinct. They're in the present moment.
Yeah.
They're not concerned about the past and the future. If they're hungry, they eat. If they're tired, they sleep. If they're afraid, they run. If they have to fight, they fight. And so our experience is, if we make the mistake of sandwiching reality in between these two unrealities, and we have the past and we have the future, and we try to put this reality of this present moment, this instinctual moment that we're sharing right now, the only real moment that we have, we're trying to put it into between these two falsenesses. This Oreo cookie thing.
Trying to put it between two what?
The falseness of past, falseness of the future. It's just mind construct of the mind, past and future. None of them are real. I mean, they don't exist really, except for in our own mind. People talk about, how passive can we be? I mean, we live in the moment, everything's fine, la 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 la, and somebody comes up and bangs us over the head with a hammer. That's instinct that takes over. We try to stop it. That's our instinctual response to that. It's not that we're passive and we let people walk all over us. We take care of situations in the moment. But if
Respond rather than react.
Yeah, response. Yeah. So the reason there's no suffering on this planet without people is because there's no selfing. There's no self. We haven't created that. There's no I within the world. So as soon as you put one human being on the earth, all of a sudden we have suffering. Because of the mind, because of the construct.
Birds don't know they're birds.
No, they
Fly around, they do it.
They might think they're one of the tigers. They don't have those. They don't have those labels, like we have.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting thing. So what we can do when we're not meditating, or even when we are meditating, is just ask ourselves, what is the world unfolding? What experience am I? Not I, but what experience is being shown at this moment? And then we can get into that presence, that present moment. Which is non-dual awareness itself. There's not these opposites happening. Everybody's waiting for Bruce to. And I don't know. Any questions on that? Any questions? Any oppositions? Otherwise, I will remain silent for a while. So we will do a In other words, how does that relate to meditations? Is that a self-inquiry, contemplation? We can even use it in our formal meditation practices. Ask what experience is happening at this time. And remember that to look at everything that comes up without judgment, without that self, that I saying, I would rather have this happen or I would rather have that happen. We shouldn't be looking for this continual stimuli to keep us going, throughout our practice, throughout our days. We should be able to be content with the way things are unfolding at the moment, and not desire for things to be other than what they are. Just see things as experiences. Experiences are coming up, but there's no experience.